All right, let's talk about wide receiver and quarterback chemistry. So, Bo Nix and Troy Franklin both used to play at Oregon, and a lot of times when, prospects come out, we simply try to evaluate them in a, baseline situation of how would you do if get drafted with a team like this or a team like that. But now that we know the situation that they've been drafted in to the Denver Broncos and the fact that they've been both drafted to the Denver Broncos, I want to make a video talking about their chemistry together. I do think that there maybe is some added value in getting them both on the same roster because they did play together in college and have certain things just down already. Like, for example, the play you see on the screen. Just a go route for Troy Franklin. Bo Nix is the quarterback here. Watch how when Nix takes the snap, he is going to fire down the field, trusting that Franklin gets open, and Franklin does in fact get open. But, a lot of times with go routes, people always think, oh, it's arm strength, right? And then usually people say, well, no, it's more accuracy. But the other important aspect is timing, right? I mean, and honestly, that's probably the most important aspect, and you have to get the timing down with your receivers. We always talk about how difficult it is as a transition for a young quarterback to try and play in the NFL. I think one thing that we don't really talk enough about is a part of that difficult transition is simply you're playing with a bunch of different guys you've never played with before, right? Look at Tom Brady's first season in Tampa Bay, right? I mean, he struggled when he first started, and it took him kind of, 3/4 of the season to really get it down. So just having a guy who maybe you have good chemistry with can help, and watch what Bo Nix is going to do here. Watch really a perfectly thrown football, and they're able to get a touchdown on that play. The fact that they have chemistry down and he kind of knows the timing of his receiver and things like that is very good. But of course, chemistry doesn't just work one way. It's not just about the quarterback understanding how the receiver is wired. It's the other way around. Something like this, where it's once again going to be a go route, Troy Franklin in a one-on-one matchup, but without safety help really over the middle of the field. Watch what's going to happen. Nix is going to take the snap right here. He is going to see that over the middle of the field is open. And so right here, he throws one up. And for Franklin, he has a step again, right? He's open, doing a good job at winning these, matchups, which is nice to see if you're a Broncos fan. But I also want you to notice where he is on the field. He is not towards the hash marks just yet, but because there's, he has a little bit of inside leverage, Nix is going to kind of lead him more towards the middle of the field, which you can only do if you have good chemistry with a player, right? Because if they're not expecting the ball to go there, they might not be able to track it. But Franklin does track it, is able to make that catch. And again, little things like this might make the transition just easier for the both of them going into the NFL, kind of knowing how each other operates a little bit. It's an added benefit. Plays like this, where it's going to be a man coverage play and you have more of a slant route over the middle here for Franklin. That's the way this play is designed to work. And, again, it's a route that can work against this type of coverage for sure. Watch how when it begins, you see Franklin's going to take this, Franklin's not taking the snap. Bo Nix is going to take the snap. And right here, what I like about this is, Franklin's just cutting, and you see Nix is in the throwing motion right now. Again, it's having that timing down, which is so important. Nix is also able to throw it, really in a good spot where Franklin can, make the catch while continuing to run, which allows him to pick up a ton more yards after the catch on top of it. And again, different receivers run at different speeds, and you have to put the ball in different spots for different receivers. So the fact that Nix and Franklin kind of have this chemistry down is very good. One of the criticisms people kind of put towards Nix is, well, how much of his game was simply the fact that he, as he got older as a prospect, then he got better. Is part of why he might look better than some other prospects simply the fact that he's 24? Well, I don't know, because you look at stuff like this, and at the end of the day, he's still good at this, and he's still good at doing this with Troy Franklin. So regardless of how you feel about that, it still should be a benefit, at least in year one, right? Sure, you can maybe argue that, how good's the ceiling. That's an argument for another day, perhaps. But I certainly think this is a benefit right now. I don't think anyone can argue against that. And again, chemistry isn't just stuff like this. This play, where I'm not even really going to break down the play itself, you see where Troy Franklin is on the field, and you'll see why I'm not breaking down this entire play right away. Because when this play starts, you see that right here. So there was an unblocked rusher for Bo Nix. And again, a lot of times this is just over. It's game over. But I thought that Bo Nix actually did a pretty good job at, when a play broke down, finding ways to make things happen. But again, once the play breaks down, it's now all chemistry, right? It's all hoping that you and your receiver are on the same page, because this is by design, not a planned situation. But watch what Nix and Franklin do here. Nix is going to kind of, shift this, throw off balance, and Franklin adjusts nicely and is able to make a tough catch. So that is them in a situation where it's just them trying to figure out a way to make something work, making something work, which, again, you just have to think will help them out at the NFL level. And I think maybe some people would argue, well, can't this just happen anyway? Can't you just organically figure this out with a receiver at the NFL level once you get there? Sure, but it takes time. It might take years. So the fact that you already have it down, can help make that transition a little easier. And like something like this too, which this is probably the most, clear-cut example of it. Zone coverage, you see Franklin's route right here. Could get into a gap in coverage. But again, these are timing routes, so watch what happens. Nix is going to take the snap. He looks over in that direction. Franklin is not yet cutting, but Bo Nix is already getting the ball out of his hands. Okay, very much, trusting that he knows when his receiver is going to cut, and his receiver is going to be on the same page as Nix. And as you see, that is what happens. Again, well-ran route, good ball. That stuff also happened a lot on these plays, but I'm mostly showing just the chemistry, because I think that's kind of the again, that's what we're talking about here in this video. I think some people might look at what I'm seeing and say, like, sure, I get your point. This is helpful, but how beneficial is this really? I think it's pretty beneficial, actually. And I would actually say this is really smart, and I think teams should do more often, in fact, if you can get away with it. For one thing, we did see obviously the Bengals have great success getting Jamar Chase, but again, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are so good they probably would have worked anywhere. But I think that and those were also different drafts, but still, you get the idea. But I do think in a situation like this, one thing that I've talked about on this channel is the number one indicator of success for a young quarterback is a lot of times even more than when you were drafted, outside of if you were drafted first overall, is situation you were put into, and making that situation a little bit easier. Even if Troy Franklin is just kind of a safety net on the occasional plays, that's still a big benefit. And even if it's just, hey, here's one less guy you have to get to know and have to get the chemistry down with, entering the league, that's a benefit. And it can make that transition easier, which a lot of times for young quarterbacks, it's those first couple of years that kind of make or break you. Sure, every now and then you have a Geno Smith kind of get it all together, after a while of being in the NFL. That happens. But, I do wonder as well how many Geno Smiths are out there that just never got their other opportunity to really show it because they didn't make it work those first couple of years. And for the Broncos, if Bo Nix ends up working out for another team, that doesn't really help them. So they want to be able to develop him now. Putting him in a better situation certainly should do that. And also, I think Bo Nix is a pretty good prospect, and I think Troy Franklin's a pretty good prospect, and I don't get why Troy Franklin fell as far as he did in the draft. So sometimes just getting good players can also be a good thing as well. So, there's that. But yeah, I want to make a video specifically on their chemistry together, because I thought that was an interesting thing that doesn't happen too often. So those are my thoughts on all of this. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.